So thank you for all attending this evening's meeting of the Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters. It is June 18th. So let me call the meeting to order, and we'll begin the meeting. The first agenda item, John's just getting here, but the first agenda item is John's report.
Give me 1 second, okay?
Yep.
I forgot to print it out, so I have to
I
look
guess,
at it online.
why don't you give your report not including the revised harbor ordinances, because then they're the first agenda on
That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give a quick overview of where we stand with the harbor.
Yep.
Just trying to. Of course, they changed the interface, and I'm still learning it.
On the harbor
Online mooring system.
online moorings.
They just changed the interface, so it's a little bit different. Tell you what, do you want to go on to something first?
Yeah,
and
why don't we
then come back to me?
then switch to updating the group on the proposed harbor ordinances? Sam, why don't you take the lead?
I think you're all aware, and that the V1, the version of the harbor ordinances that were approved on March 24th by the BOS have gone on now to the RTM. There have been public presentations on the ordinances. We gave one, that would be Flip and me and John, a week ago. It is now in the RTM's hands. Frank Kemp's TGS&A is the lead RTM committee. The other two committees that are relevant in the screening and the editing of the ordinance.
TGS&A?
That's
Town government, it's like rules.
town government structure and administration,
It's
I
like
think.
rules.
Okay, yeah.
But not the rules committee, because that is a separate committee, but it's similar to it. It's the catcher's mitt where everything that doesn't clearly go into Parks and Rec or Public Health wind up being assigned by the moderator, Seth Moore, to a committee, and it got assigned to Frank's committee. So they're the lead committee, and the two supportive committees are Parks and Rec and Public Health. So they are in the process of reviewing it, taking comment. It's anticipated at this point that they will make changes. They will be receiving input from town council, from interested public speakers who show up at the two prior meetings or show up at subsequent RTM meetings. I can't tell you when we're going to see back what we might call a V2, a V1 red line for changes agreed to by the RTM and the public. Public's been given opportunities to make comments on the town RTM website, as well as to participate in our information meetings and to attend TGS&A meetings. So it's working its way through the editing, approval, and review by town council process, and is at the moment on track for approval at the end of September. I don't know what will happen between now and September. I don't know when we will have a V2 to review. It'll just come to us, we'll look at it, but it is truly in the RTM's hands at this point.
Recognizing that we haven't seen all of the public commentary because some of the emails that were sent to the RTM email box, we just haven't seen. And that ultimately it's RTM's decision, like what tweaks to the language they make. With those two caveats, I would say that none of the public commentary really fundamentally changes the thrust of what we were trying to do. And much of the changes that we've proposed really hasn't received any commentary. So we'll have to see what comes back, but I'm not expecting it to be a landscape change from what we've produced.
And I think that's what we know. John, are you ready to do your harbor master report?
Sure, just a quick overview. So, right now we have 221 approved moorings in Darien's harbors. Wait list is now, it's climbing. The wait list now stands at about 183. Renewal under review, I still have 12 people who have not gotten me their Connecticut DMV registrations. I've made phone calls, numerous emails. I brought it down from 20 down to 12, and those 8, it resulted in a couple of people relinquishing their moorings. So those go back into the pot for reassignment. And then, if anyone's familiar with the mooring field that's been redone north of the boat club, all those moorings are now, can be occupied. They're all ready to go. But there are 3 what I call sort of nuisance moorings north of the mooring field that no one ever used. They were derelict. 2 were taken out about a month and a half ago, and the last one, the owner of that relinquished it. He's retired from boating, so that one is scheduled to be pulled also. So there will be no derelict moorings north of those 10 moorings north of the boat club. That's pretty much it that I have right now for
Do you have people on the wait list who, if you said to them, I have a mooring for you, would be in a position to use it? Or is it too late in the season for that?
No, there are people who are still calling me. I have a couple of people that I'm working with to occupy some of the last remaining moorings in the harbor. Unfortunately, you send out communications, you make phone calls, people don't get back to you.
Yeah.
And I've adopted a process of, I will, like in an evening, I will send out 10 and wait for people to get back to me. Now, on an order process, if you send out 10, if you get 2 responses, you're lucky. But some people some of the people who really have an appetite for a mooring are so junior on the list, I can't always just take them, especially if they're in a category that has a long list. Now there were a lot of people who had 18 and under, and I put 10 boats or 7 or 8 boats up the river because of that. I also found another home for another 17-footer in the harbor also, but I still, with a list as long as it is, I still have a few people that I can go to. There are some junior people who I probably will wind up assigning a mooring because they have an appetite for it, they're getting back to me, and the people who are senior to them are not getting back to me, so.
You and I have gone out and looked at it. I still feel like there's some number.
Yes, I know.
I think the number is
And-
big,
and-
but others
and-
feel it's not as big.
And
But-
you did prove that to me and Scott last season, and we did put in one, but we can look at more. Of course, as soon as we put in that new mooring, the following season, that mooring holder relinquished the mooring also. So now I have to fill that one again.
So, but I think, and I'm happy to, if there are people on the list who want to go out and have a boat ride and look at these potential locations, they can use their own judgment whether they like them. To me, to my eye, they're no worse than many of the other moorings, locations that we have. And so I think it would not be hard to figure out 5 more moorings.
It's very possible.
So
Very possible.
we'd be happy to try to accommodate people if there are people who are still chomping at the bit.
Yep. There's a few people. I'm specifically focusing on people. We seem to have about 3 or 4 moorings that can handle outboard boat of roughly 21 feet long. I think we've got about 3 or 4 of them. So I think I've identified 2 takers. I just had another person relinquish their mooring, so I had it down to 2. Now I'm back up to 3 empty 21 footers in the harbor. So I'm working to fill those, but it seems as soon as I fill them, people are saying I'm bowing out of boating, so I'm always fighting absence of it looks like it's about 10 moorings now I'm down to, which is a lot better because when I started out it was over 30.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we go on to the next item, the Shellfish? If there's anything?
I don't have much of an update on that. We sent the finalized amendment to the First Selectman's office. This is from Bobby Burney. He sent that finalized amendment over to the First Selectman's office, but it didn't get onto the BOS agenda. Jen said it could probably make it onto the 23rd agenda, so I'll double check with Bobby and see if we can get it on for next week, I guess it is. And then it'll be voted on by them, and ideally that'll just be.
Refresh my memory, what are the big movers in it?
Basically, they should already be halted on their activity up in Scotts Cove at this point. May 30th was the deadline, basically no summer fishing up in Scotts Cove. But the big thing was that it had lapsed so long that the BOS wasn't cool with rubber stamping everything for the last however many years that it's been out of service. So we just brought the dates current, kept it the same thing, with ideally with an expiration that times up with their expiration of their state fishing license, which is July 1st. So,
Good.
should be hopefully a little cleaner. And then we'll do a year and then figure out what we want to do after that for future agreements.
As long as you're up, you want to keep talking about dredging, if there is anything?
Sure. For the main channel, not much. They are still going through pre-application meetings with Connecticut DEP. This was a report I got last week from Coastline Consulting. A refresher on that. All that dredge material is suitable for open water disposal in Long Island Sound. But as soon as they submit the application, you can start the clock for at least 8 to 9 months. A couple months to review and get the certificate of permission approved by Connecticut DEP. But there's also a 6-month comment period between Connecticut and New York about the open water disposal. So I don't think it's going to line up for this dredging season, which is call it November to March, October, March. So I think it'll end up being a 26-27 project, if anything. I'd like it to time up with the Pear Tree Point, the dredging up and around the boat club from the boat ramp up to A dock or so. but I don't think that's gonna fly. I did talk to Dan Biggs at Weston and Sampson today about the project. They have Army Corps approvals in hand now. So everything's ready to rock, and they should be sending out an RFP to get contractors bids in the next few weeks, he says. So they're still, sounds like still planning to get that project started this season.
It will doubtless take some decent amount of time just to circle funding
That's the big thing.
for it. Especially if there is a interest by, on behalf of the town of asking the yacht club and the boat club to pay for some portion of it. I think, I don't know what the receptivity will be.
I think the last time they talked about funding, it was that we wouldn't hear back from rules until the end of September. In which case, the earliest the funding could be released is, I think, the 10th of October. Per the, I think it's 2 weeks after approval or something.
For the,
If they approve funding for the project, so if we get bids in by, end of July, it's pretty fast. But they're finalizing all the contract documents now. So if they can get bids in basically before the next time RTM meets, which is what, September?
yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is, when the harbor was last dredged in 2003, whatever it was, it was like a private-public partnership
Right.
where the town, I don't remember the exact split, but let's just call it the town paid 50%, the boat club and the yacht club each paid 25%. I don't know if those are the right numbers. And John, can you remember that? Something like that.
I remember there was a harbor, I thought there was a harbor dredge in 2000. There was one as a boat club in 2001. There was in something dredge over in Pratt Cove area.
Yeah, I don't remember
I
that.
don't remember that year.
But in any event, if the town wants to pay for 100% of the cost, they're obviously welcome to move forward on whatever time schedule they can do. But if they want either of those two clubs to make a material contribution to it, and if those clubs making a contribution is a condition of the town's approval for what their part of the budget is, they need to socialize that with specific numbers sooner rather than later, and it will likely take some period of time for people to come to consensus as to what they're willing to do.
Okay.
So as you think about scheduling.
Yeah, I know, I sent a little brief over to Sam to forward along to the board at Yacht Club, since that's kind of a separate portion from what would more closely affect the boat club.
Yeah.
At two different time schedules, so I would imagine if they're doing the main channel harbor, that would start to affect the Yacht Club if they want to do additional dredging there. And then the same goes for the boat club for the other portion of around the club. I think the last time there was that PPP, if you want to call it that, the entire footprint of the boat club also got dredged. So under all the docks and the channel itself, whereas this time it's just the channel. And talking with a couple people at the boat club, the docks don't really need attention yet. So it would still be just the portion of the project that is the town. So I don't think we haven't come to any conclusion on that. But yeah, it is a little tricky with two different projects. But I think, wasn't the board satisfied so far with the update? As far
I
as you
think
can tell?
they'd like me to be,
Stay on that.
I don't think they thought I was as articulate as they wanted me to be on just the sequencing and the money.
Yeah, it's a year out at least, so once we talk to the others, I think the interesting thing that will come of the whole conversation is what bids come in for the first portion of the project, and then if or whether those contractors are willing to provide some estimate of what the future work will be.
Yeah.
And then, if they have to remobilize and come back with a dredge rate, it's not an insignificant sum just for mobilization alone. So it would have been nice to time it up, but when that time comes, if those terms still stand and if they're able to offer a rough price that will be good for a year, then that's the time to start talking about it.
And I assume that dredging is done during the winter, right?
Yes, yeah, there's a specific window. I gotta double check, but I think it's November to February, October to March, something like
My understanding is that there's also a 5-year window from the granting of the permissions.
that. For the Pear Tree Point project, yes, I think that 5-year window expires in 2027.
That soon?
Yeah, we're already 3.5 years into that permit. But as long as you're demonstrating significant or, material progress, you can extend those permits about a year at a time. So I don't think the town wants to do that, but that's always an option. And it's free, it's just call, submit a total document. But yeah, it can be extended.
Thank you. I put on this agenda, the next item, the Sustainable and Resilient Communities SRC Working Group of Long Island Sound, but I am not involved in that working group. Is anyone here familiar with that? Rob, are you? Marty?
I know enough to be
David?
dangerous.
I don't know anything about it.
This was where Bill Cavers was going to be speaking to us all, so I think we'll just push it to our next meeting. Okay. Did you guys all see the beginning work on the POCD? Which is, I think you guys know the last one was 2016, runs through 2026, and so they're in the drafting stage of it to be effective from 2026 to 36. Have any of you guys been sort of studying on it? Any thoughts?
There's been some, no, I don't really have any thoughts other than I've looked at some of the results.
Yeah.
And nothing is surprising. It's a small group that will be pushing for what they want to have done around the coast to keep our environment, as clean as possible, as natural as possible.
Do we need to gear up a working group of us plus maybe the harbor master plus environmental protection, because they do care about the riverine water? Is this something that we should put together as a specific task force so that as the POCD is finalized, rather than just
There are
random
specific
comments?
interest groups in town, as you know. Actually, there's
There
a-
are, yeah.
And those interest groups had a meeting at the library about a month ago,
Right,
which was pretty interesting.
and you went.
I did. There weren't any surprises, and our former chairman, co-chairman, runs Green Wave, so she's been very vocal about the things that she wants.
Yeah,
There are a couple more vocal groups who don't necessarily they just like to be vocal, I guess, versus coming in and saying, we'd like to have this happen. John got up in front of everyone, Jay-Z, and said, if you have issues, please come, let's work them out, let's see what we can do, because it's really important that our natural resources are as clean and as pristine as possible. So he made that request. I haven't talked to John since, so I don't know what the net result was, but there have been some of the interest groups who just make a lot of noise before they come and talk to the town about what the town does. So I think there's a request out that let's have a conversation and make sure we can work on this together, which I think is a very reasonable request, but I haven't heard much about it. I don't think there's a big deal with respect to the water, to be honest with you, at this point. I mean, we know what the results were for the most recent survey.
do, yes.
And, they're on the rise, things are getting a little better across the sound, which is good. And so Bill and I are part of the group that goes out and still goes out and gets the water samples. although I missed the last couple. But, and we do have 2 high school students who are joining us for the summer, which has been great. But there's been no material change that I've seen in any of the water sampling.
Did you see the beach scorecard report that Save the Sound produced?
I did not. I've been away for a couple weeks, so I have a big inbox of Save the Sound.
The, some of the scores for our town beaches went down, particularly the ones measuring bacterial load after rainfall. And I had a conversation with the Save the Sound people about why that makes sense for that to be going in the negative direction. And one of their, this is using the bacterial data that the health departments collect.
Right.
And one of Save the Sound's observations is, I think we only have 2 monitoring stations in town, and you just end up with small sample size. So an individual, episode can dramatically impact the results. One of the things that they observed is that other towns with as much beach as we have more sampling stations, so they end up with more samples. And so it's probably worth us facilitating a discussion between the health department and Save the Sound to see if there are things we could do just to modify our data collection to give a more accurate picture of what's really going on.
You know that the way the water comes into Darien is very, we're like at the center of where rainfall comes in, and it's almost like an enormous V if you look at the topography. So if there's going to be rain and runoff, we're going to get it. That is something that's just the nature of our topography.
Yeah, although our town rivers are actually not as voluminous as a lot of towns' rivers.
True.
But I'm not saying we don't have what I'll call an issue. I'm just saying it may be a data issue, but it may be a real issue too. But it may be that having more sampling stations could help.
Do you know where those 2 are? The existing?
I think one's at like basically the boat club, and one is somewhere over on Wheat Beach somewhere.
Yeah, because I've seen the samples like on the west beach of Picture Point, so it's a little quieter in terms of circulation there versus on the outboard beach, so I don't know if there's a big difference there, but.
And there's correlation to major rain events too, which have a whole lot of volatility.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally.
Last year was pretty bad.
Yeah. So far, we're not up to a good start here either. Huh?
Yeah. So I'm.
Is there a proposal? Do you want to?
I am. I'm going to actually, unfortunately, be away for a number of weeks, so I can't be here to do anything. But maybe I could facilitate. If you're interested,
I'll take it.
I could.
Maybe Bill and I will take it. He's obviously got a keen interest in this.
I'll try to. I'll shoot you guys an email and I'll introduce you to the people at Save the Sound that I was talking to.
Sure. That sounds
So.
Okay. Thank you.
And still in the plan of conservation and development.
If you've got an observation, please make it.
I have just one observation, and I don't know if it falls into this or not, but I find myself thinking this every time I go down to Pear Tree trailering a boat. There are an increasing number of pedestrians between Pear Tree and the Great Island entrance. And I've found over the years there just seem to be more walkers.
with 4 wide and a dog.
And a dog. There are signs saying walk against the traffic. Invariably, half the people don't pay attention to that. I find it harrowing to be driving with a trailer down there because there's not a lot of shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough shoulder that you'll ever have a sidewalk there. Not to mention there's a sign when you're coming out of Pear, no left turn, and half the people make the left turn anyway. And what I've been thinking as I've been driving is, if you're never going to have a sidewalk there, why not make that one way? And that might annoy some of the residents.
There's a lot
I
of,
don't know.
Except for the residents.
that is an idea that has been floated.
It has,
and
okay.
There's a lot of local resistance to
Okay.
that, let me just put it that way.
Okay. Well, if it's been educated before, I'll let it go then.
You know, because obviously people who live, like, for instance, on Crane Road or something, that, you know, they have to go one way, coming in one way and going out like a much longer way.
I would just hate to see somebody get hurt there in the summer when there's so many people walking around. And
Yeah.
a boat's flying down and,
Honking at people tends to help.
Okay.
No,
but
you're right.
It is a hazard. I totally couldn't agree with more, but
We always try to walk against traffic. But if you're walking back from Great Island and you come to the curve with the stone wall, it's a
Yeah.
blind curve for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
drivers coming at you. We go over the stone wall anyway and walk with traffic around the stone wall and then cross back. Because it's a blind corner for the
Yeah.
drivers coming past that big hedge. So it's a
In
good.
younger years, I used to walk on the stone wall, which I don't know if that's actually safer either, but
No, it's
I
not
might,
bad.
I might
I've
fall
done it.
as opposed to get hit by a car, but
I've done it. It's not bad.
yeah.
It's pretty
well,
wide.
maybe there will be a day when we've actually addressed the parking situation at Great Island. I don't know.
Yeah, it is just, actually, it's a slightly shorter walk, I've been told, if you park at either St. Luke's or St. John's and go to Great Island, than if you park at Pear Tree.
A lot of people are parking on Harbor now.
I'll bet.
A lot. I noticed it last weekend, I believe, or the weekend before.
It's a hazard, though, I agree with you, David, and I don't see routing the walkers up the hill and down Long Neck, even though there's much more room. Huh.
All right, just a thought.
So
You-
you
you are
want
right.
to, you want to insert safe driving on Pear Tree into the POCD?
There are already signs there. You know, I don't know that there's absent rerouting traffic and you're never going to get a sidewalk in there. I'm not sure what you could do. So,
It would take a lot of reconstruction for a sidewalk to be
yeah,
created.
and you'll have litigation and people unhappy with that too. And so, anyway.
Okay, so the last item that I put on the list was the proposed new dock in Ziegler's Cove. I think I sent the paperwork around to everybody, and you can see the maps of where it will go, which is proposed to go near the end of Ziegler's, go left, so go south. You enter Ziegler's by water, go past the town dock, go past the garden shed, and look left, and that, all that land is owned by the applicant or his family. And so it's not unreasonable to think about how to get water access. I think the only question is, in the first case, how big is reasonable? And the proposal is significantly larger than I think is reasonable, and that It's significantly larger than the 440 plan that people have read about, which is, I think, highly likely to be approved. The,
Does it show on the map exactly where this is?
well, pretty close.
What it doesn't have is a zoomed out map so that you can kind of place it well in Ziegler's Cove. It's either too close or too far.
Yeah, because I was looking at this, I couldn't really tell.
It's near the dam, right?
It's right across from the boathouse.
Yeah.
It's pretty near the dam.
Yeah, I mean, if you were walking out the proposed dock, you would look left and see the dam.
Yeah, so that.
Absolutely.
That outcrop from the boathouse on Ziegler's and this dock would sort of form like this.
Yes.
Dan is here. So, I don't know, John, how many people are that far up on a Saturday or where the moorings are. But,
That's something that it has to be figured out if this actually structure intrudes into the existing mooring field.
I went out onto that point of rocks next to in front of the boathouse. And I actually have some pictures I can show them to you if you want, but it didn't look like there was a mooring. The kind of the closest in mooring still looked like it was pretty far out relative to this point of land, this area. So it didn't seem to me, as I stood there looking at it, that it would interfere with people mooring or boat traffic.
yeah, I mean, there's no navigable waterway there that people are going any further. So I think in terms of all the places that you could put it on that site, that's probably the best place for it.
Yeah, there's another little kind of cove a little bit to the south. You
Yeah.
could move it over there, but I don't know about the depth of water there.
I spoke to a family member who previously owned the property, and at one point, he had the intent of buying this piece of property and doing something very similar to this. He also pointed out the other good spot to do this. Do you know where the dock is that's off of Hay Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that area off of, it's called Coon Point. That's also another very good area for putting it, and the water's deeper there. If the structure probably wouldn't have to be as long. I will say one thing, the floating dock is way out of spec. 10 by 10 is standard, 100, 160 on a stretch, 300 is just,
Yeah.
And this is long. This is going into it as opposed to across.
it's supposedly, well, if you just add it up, it's 154 feet in total length. You know, we shorten a little bit at low tide, maybe. No, I don't know. But there could be other areas. They might have to explore that if they're not given a 10 by 30 dock, because it's going to bring them closer to shore. I don't know what kind of boat they intend on putting on it.
Well, I would think, first of all, it's not clear that people are always asking our commission's opinion on new dock applications.
Right.
But I would think that if we were asked, that our pretty much standard position should be that the float should be 100 square feet. In whatever, or whether it's 8 by 12 or 10 by 10 or whatever you want, but 100 square feet is the standard. We should not be encouraging or allowing oversized docks like this, oversized floats.
When I've discussed other projects in the harbor and spoken with Deep, they're pretty insistent that they don't do anything over 160. So my feeling is the the dock size right off the bat is gonna have to be revised. What that will do to, when you look on the other pages, how deep the water is, if you shorten that dock up, well, I guess it gets kind of, it looks like it's pretty flat there at that point. But you're only looking at what, 3 feet, 8 inches at low tide?
It does overlap to some small degree with the seasonal recreational shellfish beds there.
Oh, does it?
Yes,
It does, doesn't it?
Inside Ziegler?
yes.
Oh, interesting.
Those are seasonal during the winter.
Yes, well, it's at the discretion of the Department of Agriculture, and I think they essentially,
Never open.
no, when they decide there's not much boating traffic anymore out there, then they open it up.
John, if it was shrunk down to 10 by 10, are they then allowed to drive pilings or some sort of mooring dolphin, like if you want to, because it's only 10 foot, you can't really dock a boat against it. So something tells me that they got a 20-something foot boat that they want to put alongside, or two. Can you plop?
I never really hear deep sound concerned about what vessel you plan on putting on it.
That 3.6 at dead low tide that's pretty good. That's a pretty good depth there.
Yeah, there's
You
many
get-
docks that don't have that.
Yeah, but if you've got a 10 by 30, maybe you're planning on having a bigger boat there, I don't know. I don't know.
But I don't think that's part of the dock application form, how big is my boat?
No, it
So-
isn't. They don't ever seem concerned about what vessel is gonna be on that dock.
So there is actually a place on the application form on page 3 which calls for or offers a comment box for the Harbor Management Commission, which, as you all are aware, we are not. So, I guess the question is, we all think it's too big a floating platform. And maybe there are alternative places that they would find good water for their boat. But I'm trying to figure out if we're supposed to comment.
Maybe it would be good, John, you seem to be able to connect with Sue Jacobson at Deep. Maybe you could ask her if she would like the Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters to weigh in on this.
Yeah. I'm under the impression she does not have this yet. I think this is just for our,
Oh, because it's not been submitted for approval yet?
I don't think this has been submitted yet. I think they're waiting for our,
Pre-application.
yeah, they're trying to,
Presentation.
they're trying to get from us our concerns so that they can address them before they submit it.
When you say, but I hear you, but when you say get from us our concerns, who's us? The town? The
Well, it
Coastal
was sent-
Commission,
it
the
was-
harbor master?
Well, whoever the applicant is here, Race, I guess, is recognizing you as somebody who has an opinion. That's why they
Yeah,
said
they
it.
sent it to us and to you,
Yeah,
among others, but
In the absence of the harbor
They
manager.
sent it to Bill, I think, specifically,
to
right?
Bill,
On behalf.
he, in his role as former chairman of.
it didn't come directly to me, it was forwarded to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it must have been just to Bill.
yeah.
But why don't we call them?
Just call them.
Yeah, why don't we just call them and say, what are you looking for? Because if you really want to know what we think, here's what we think.
Yeah.
I don't think you I don't have much of an opinion on the place, given how far in it is, and certainly the amount of investment that had to be made to get that property, huge investment. So I think certainly there's a right to do it the right way, and the only thing I would say is that the floating dock should probably be more in line with something that's pretty standard.
Yeah. Okay, you're gonna be going away next week. I'll take it on me to follow up with Grace and send emails around saying, "Look, I think it is," and then, I mean, it's clear that there is a place in there for comment by the ACCW in our case, and find out what we can do, and I'll let everybody know. The next meeting is September 18th. Everybody got that on their calendars, I hope?
Mhm.
Oh, and cleanup.
And go.
We have, as a placeholder on the calendar right now, October 19th,
Sunday, October 19th.
7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., consistent with a low tide, to, as a group, go out and clean up. I think it was Sam and I, the two of us, the last time around, so I think we'd love to get critical mass this time. If that looks like it's not gonna work for a bunch of people, why don't we think about another day?
I think the thing that we need to do, and you and I did talk about this, is I think there are a lot of people who are conceptually in favor of, putting on their waders and grabbing gloves and going and helping, but how do we let them know? How do we tell them? I think maybe one thing we do is we create some posting that goes in latest news on the town website. People do seem to look at that. That's one thought.
Yeah, I mean, you could also, if we created just like a little one page or whatever, to give it to Julie and have it send it out to her group. We could send it to the land trust.
Put it in the road navigator,
Yeah, I mean, I think you could actually
DVC news of some kind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, both of them.
I think you could actually get a decent number of people. And I think there is what I'll call eco-citizens group at the high school.
I'm pretty sure there is.
That
Bill knows about that.
They might be able,
The
they might
teachers.
be interested in participating if it's especially a one-and-done cleanup like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of teachers
Good idea.
that Bill's been connected with, environmental studies and the like.
Yeah, I know the land trust has, I think, 2 summer interns from the high school this summer.
And you guys have a newsletter that goes out to members that,
Yeah, it's not a regular newsletter, but we could post it either on the website or
someone get
something.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, the town
Good
does
day.
post things about some critical items and hearings and stuff on the Instagram page, and whether or not you're on Instagram, there are a lot of folks that are, and I see it.
Yeah, there's Parks and Rec has a,
They got their own, town of Darien has their own, Johnson Grassy has his own, so.
I mean, I think actually if you start to publicize it, you'll quickly get too many people.
Yeah.
Because you can't handle.
Many hands make
That
light
would
work.
be a sharp and pleasant turnaround.
Why don't we do this, since our next meeting is about a month before
In advance.
this?
Yeah,
Why don't we make that an agenda item then, because doing anything now won't result in anything, and we can hit a couple key constituents to get a few more bodies out there picking garbage.
Is it worth doing another one mid-season, or is that kind of not necessary?
We do one in the spring too.
Yeah, I mean, like a midsummer.
I think the only thing that, I don't know whose book that pointed this out, once the vegetation grows up a little bit in some
Yeah.
places, it's harder to find the
Yeah, you
stuff.
really
that's-
need the high tide bush to have even October may be too early.
Yeah,
But you really need the high tide bush to have lost its leaves to be able to see.
Got it. Okay.
Middle of winter is good. I mean, it's cold, but it's good. You can actually see everything in the middle of winter.
All right.
So there will be a fall cleanup, date to be determined.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anything else?
Nope, now we need a quorum. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we'll move.
Done. Thank you. Thank you, Charles.